Hello and welcome to Campus Dining and Shop's Workplace Violence Prevention Training. Workplace violence is among the leading causes of workplace fatalities, and there are thousands of non-fatal violent on-the-job incidents each year. Workplace violence can occur at any business or workplace, and anyone can be a victim. Therefore, it is important for you to know how to prevent these incidents and what to do if you encounter a potentially violent situation at work. In compliance with New York State and with guidance and support from the university, in this presentation we will be covering the following topics: the 4 types of workplace violence, identifying workplace violence risk factors, workplace controls and security systems. We will be able to recognize the signs of potential violence, know how to diffuse potentially violent situations safely, and how to respond appropriately to a violent event. In this presentation, we will refer and apply these concepts to Campus Dining and Shop's operations. While the general information will be the same for off-campus situations, we will apply the response to the workplace here with Campus Dining and Shops at the University at Buffalo. Let us get started with reviewing the 4 main types of workplace violence. Type 1 is those of a criminal nature. These are acts of violence from individuals with no connection to the workplace or the people of the workplace. An example would be a convenience store robbery that is a random act. Type 2 would be a violent act from a guest. Some of these triggers may be that they felt that they were wronged or perceived unfairness by a member of staff. Type 3 would be violent acts from an employee or a former employee. Often these are violent acts that are triggered by something that occurred in the workplace. And finally, type 4 would be those violent acts from individuals with a relational connection to an employee. The company does not employ these individuals, but they are loved ones or someone that at one point had a relationship with the employee that works for the company. These individuals are often seeking to harm that individual they had a connection with. As with the different types of workplace violence, these situations often have a trigger point or a cause of why the individual has decided to carry out these actions. There are some of the triggers that may apply to one type more than others, but most of these listed could apply to all types. These can include layoff, termination, disciplinary action, a poor performance review, conflict with another employee, or perceived unfairness. Other triggers of workplace violence could be stressful situations and life events, substance abuse and mental illness, domestic violence, and other crimes that can lead to workplace violence. They can also be random acts, or because somebody has financial trouble. It could also be the death of a loved one or conflict with others. Some examples of workplace violence would be verbal threats, aggressive behavior, disorderly conduct, stealing, false statements, and the use of a weapon as a form of aggression. Workplace violence will often have several risk factors. The likelihood of workplace violence occurring could be related to working alone, working at night, working in a high crime area, working where alcohol is served, exchanging money with the public, providing services and care for others, and working with unstable people. Additionally, there is the factor of its severity. The severity of a workplace violent event could be correlated to inadequate security systems or unrestricted movement of the public. It could be ineffective procedures to warn off danger or blocked escape routes. It could be no emergency phone numbers posted for staff to contact, or no outside telephone line to be able to call out of the facility. The severity could also be correlated to there being no safe area for employees to go. It could be a lack of skill in diffusing conflict situations or a lack of communication. All these risk factors of likelihood and severity will often lead to situations and lead to the situations to having more of a negative impact. Now that we have gone through the types of workplace violence and reviewed examples of why and how these events can occur, what are some security measures that are in place? What can we do as campus dining and shops? In conjunction with the university, we have cameras and alarms in our spaces. There are controlled access to places on campus. There are emergency lights in buildings, but also adequate lighting in parking lots and around campus. There are procedures in place for reporting. There are trainings for conflict resolution. We also encourage the buddy system when working, which is never to be alone, even at closing. Additionally, the University at Buffalo Police Department, or UBPD, are there monitoring and ready to respond. They have knowledge of the campus layout to respond to any call in a timely fashion. For any occurrence on a University at Buffalo campus, calling UBPD at 716-645-2222 will be your fastest response time versus calling 911 for on-campus situations. Noting the time and what the individuals involved look like will also aid UBPD in their response. What can you do for security? Refer to our visitor policy. For safety reasons, visitors must be authorized to come into our locations in advance and have prior approval. In addition, you can keep visitors in common areas. If the office is in a secure location, do not just bring a visitor in to meet with someone. Have them wait in the common area until the individual they say they are meeting with has gone to get them or has given permission for them to come into the secure location. Make sure you are wearing your name tag with your uniform and always keep your UB ID with you. Any valuables need to be kept in a secure location. Report any security breaches to Human Resources and UBPD. These things will all help keep everyone safe from a potential threat. You can and should report suspicious individuals or activities to your managers and to UBPD. To determine if an individual is suspicious acting, it is important to recognize the signs of distress and triggers. These may include some pre-known factors about an individual that we went over as triggers, like financial difficulties, death of a loved one, relationship problems, or conflict with others. These may also present in an individual by them being withdrawn for a typically outgoing individual, or in such ways as stalking, threats of violence, unwillingness to follow rules, or uncooperative, just to name a few. A few physical signs could be a clenched jaw or balled fist, pacing or restlessness, trembling or shaking, violating others' personal space, or being argumentative or uncooperative. It is important to remember that just because an individual is demonstrating one or more of these warning signs, it does not necessarily mean their intent is to cause harm. Levels of violence and response. There have been 3 levels of violent situations identified. Here are those levels of violence and the response to go with them. Level 1. Violent behaviors would be bullying, uncooperative, and verbally abusive. We would respond to level 1 violent behaviors with keeping a calm attitude, acknowledge feelings, seek help if needed, contacting a manager. Level 2. Violent behaviors could present as argumentative. Maybe they are stealing a product. They would damage things around them or threaten to hurt someone around them. Responses to these level 2 behaviors would be to secure your safety. This would be something like making sure a door is locked. Another response would be to contact your manager and or calling UBPD at 645-2222. Level 3. Behaviors of violence could be suicidal threats or a physical fight or the use of a weapon. Level 3 responses would be leave the area if it is safe to do so, contacting your manager and calling UBPD at 645-2222. While in a workplace violent situation, your response is to help keep yourself safe. As we move into the next few topics, we will talk about specific responses such as diffusing a potentially violent situation or the run, hide, fight response when applied to an active shooter. Diffusing a potentially violent situation is one thing that we can do to help these potentially violent situations. There are behaviors that we need to have and not have for this to be effective. Let us start with the do's. Do. Remain calm. While in many of these situations there are different emotions one might be feeling, it is important to remain calm. Be respectful. Speak clearly and respectfully to those around you and report it. As soon as it is safe to do so, report the situation to either your manager and or UBPD. Now for the don'ts. Do not argue. This is especially applicable if you are interacting with the individual instigating the situation. And do not respond with anger. These will only escalate the situation. A specific type of violent event that we would like to cover is that of active shooter situations. These events can have many different motivations behind them and may be linked to the likelihood and severity that we reviewed earlier. However, unique to active shooter events, there are usually no pattern to victim selection. These events can be unpredictable and evolve very quickly. In the event of an active shooter, you should prepare to protect yourself. It is important to note that there are multiple ways that you can receive notification of an active shooter event taking place on campus. Yes, you may be in the place where the event is occurring, so you will hear or see something. If you are not in the place where the event is occurring, the University at Buffalo has several signals to indicate an event. They would send a UB alert, which is text messages and emails. Menu boards and other electronic informational boards throughout the university will indicate that there is an emergency. Your managers will also help indicate to you that there is an emergency on campus. You may have also heard of the run, hide, fight response to violent situations. This is a simple way to remember how one is to respond. What you choose to do would be based on your judgment of the event that is occurring. In making that judgment, it is important to not freeze and to remain as calm as you can. Run. Leave the area of the violent situation if it is safe to do so as quickly as you can. Do not stick around just to see what happens. Leave and get to the designated meeting place. Hide. During an active shooter, it may not be safe to run or leave. In those instances, one should take shelter and hide. When doing so, be sure to barricade yourself in a safe location. And finally, only as a last resort, confront or fight. Run, hide, fight might also be applied to other workplace violence situations. We are going to break these down even more as we apply run, hide, fight to active shooter situations. First, we will talk about that run or evacuation. When you decide that it is safest to run from an active shooter situation, there are a few important things to remember. Leave as quickly as you can, leaving all non-life-saving belongings behind. Go to your designated meeting place via the evacuation route. These meeting places and evacuation routes are posted in the units and are reviewed on a regular basis. Please make sure you know the most up-to-date information for the unit you are currently working in. When running from an active shooter event, help others escape along the way. But do not wait for anyone who is choosing to hide or are wounded. The goal is to not make running from an event to cause more panic and confusion, but rather to ensure safety by moving away from the threat. Once you are safe, contact UBPD at 645-2222 and help law enforcement with any information you may have. Next, hide or shelter in place. Because active shooter events typically only last 10 to 15 minutes, hiding may be the best option to keep you safe. If you choose to hide, you want to pick the right place that would be out of view of the shooter and provides protection. Lock the doors and turn off the lights. Put an out of office sign on the door if one is available. Barricade the door with furniture. In most campus dining and shops units, there is an area that would be best to hide. Step away from the line and get to that hiding place, if it is safe to do so. When hiding, keep quiet, silence cell phones, and hide behind other furniture if possible. Locate the emergency kit if possible and safe to do so. Wait in the hiding place until law enforcement clears the area or it is safe to leave. And finally, fight or confront the shooter. If neither running nor hiding is an option and you are confronted by the active shooter, your last resort is to fight. If you have to fight, you must commit to this decision and act as aggressively as possible. In the event of an active shooter, it is paramount that we work with law enforcement. You may hear a lot of yelling and other noises as law enforcement moves in to take control of the situation. Their goal is to confront the active shooter. They may move past others quickly to get to where they need to. Therefore, it is important that as you encounter law enforcement, that you raise your hands, follow instructions, and avoid sudden movements or yelling or screaming. Any workplace violent event, the aftermath of the workplace violence can have an effect on the well-being of those involved. Knowing the signs of distress is important. This could be changes in sleep pattern or eating habits, or overall mood changes, just to name a few. There are different ways of coping as well. If anyone is showing signs of distress or in need of help following a workplace violent event, please contact Human Resources Office for Campus Dining at 716-645-7308. There are employee assistant programs that we can get you in touch with or you can contact to help you navigate the aftermath of a workplace violent event. We have covered a lot of information in this presentation. Let us review some key points to remember. Triggers can be anything from work-related, like layoff or termination, to a disciplinary action, or they can be things like a stressful situation, a mental illness, or financial troubles. These triggers can affect what and how a workplace violent event takes place. The likelihood and severity of workplace violence can be things like working alone or inadequate security and procedures. Here at Campus Dining and Shops, located on the University at Buffalo campuses, the University Police act to keep everyone on campus safe with their monitoring and patrols and quick response times due to knowing the layout of the campuses. In addition, it is important to note Campus Dining and Shops has its own workplace violence policy in our employee handbooks. We do not tolerate behaviors that violate this policy, and it is imperative that we have a safe, comfortable work environment for all our employees as well as our guests. It is important that in any workplace violent situation that everyone remains calm and diffuses the situation if possible. In this presentation, we also reviewed that there are 3 levels of workplace violence and response. Knowing where a situation would be categorized will help with knowing how you should respond. We also reviewed active shooter situations and talked about the run, hide, fight response to these events. And finally, we talked about the aftermath of workplace violent events and knowing how to see the signs of distress and where to get help for those in distress. Thank you for your attention to this presentation. If you have any questions or concerns about anything covered in this presentation, please contact the Campus Dining and Shops Human Resources Department at 716-645-7308. Thank you.